it's Veronica from Blue Star Crochet, and in today's video tutorial we're gonna make this cute little pumpkin, or a version of this cute little pumpkin with the twig for a stalk. So it's an easy project for autumn. They're great little gifts, or you can just make a bunch of them and have them on display as a home decor. So what we're gonna need today, right, I'm gonna be using this is just a leftover of Schapier's Merino Soft. I'm gonna be using a 4mm crochet hook. But this project is great that you can use any weight of yarn with the appropriate crochet hook. So if you want to use chunky worsted weight, by all means grab any kind of yarn from your stash, but this is what I'm going to be using. We're also going to need a big needle to sew the top and the bottom of the pumpkin. We'll need a tape measure because I'm going to give you a little recipe on how to make the rectangle in the appropriate size so your pumpkin works out. Then I've got a little twig just from outside from the garden, and whatever you want to stuff your pumpkin with. This one is actually stuffed with just leftover yarn, really tiny balls of yarn unraveled, and just some bits and bobs of any kind of leftovers that you don't want to use. Or if you have been saving up your yarn tail ends after you sew ends in, this is a great project to just stuff them inside. So I'm going to be using all kind of different, as you can see, I've got some old swatches, some bits and bobs of leftover yarn. So I'm going to be using these to stuff the pumpkin with, and I'm going to be putting them in my old, clean of course, nylon stocking here. So this is a great way to stuff your pumpkins because, as you can see, then it won't poke through, it won't show through. So this is a great way to put the stuffing in, and actually it's a good way to use the nylon stocking even if you are using a proper polyfill stuffing, because we're going to be using the camel stitch, which is half double crochet through the third loop at the back. And as you can see, it's not the most dense stitch, okay? There are little gaps in there, but I really love the look of the camel stitch because, as you can see, it creates naturally these stitches that kind of make it look like a pumpkin. So that's the stitch I opted for. So I'm recommending this nylon stocking to put your stuffing inside this, or as I said, you can just use any kind of odd bits and bobs of yarn that you just don't want to use. So pop them inside and we're going to stuff that with it, okay? So let me get all this stuff out of the way, and we're going to start with making a pumpkin. Okay, so for the pumpkin, before you start, I'm going to advise you to leave yourself a super long starting tail end, because we can use this tail end at the end to sew up the top or the bottom of the pumpkin, okay? So before you make your slip knot, just give yourself a little bit of working yarn. So this is how much I'm gonna have on one end before I start. So I'm gonna start with the slip knot, okay, to make my first stitch. And because I want the second pumpkin to be slightly bigger than this one, as I said, this one's got 15 stitches across. I'm going to go for 25, okay? So I'm just going to start chaining 25, foundation chain. Okay? So I want my pumpkin to be 25 stitches wide. So to start, the first row is going to be a simple half double crochet all the way across, okay? So I'm going to chain one extra stitch. So these first two chains are going to count as the first half double crochet. And I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to start working into third chain from the hook, okay? So that's one half double crochet, then yarn over into the next chain. And I'm going to repeat this all the way across the foundation chain, just working one half double crochet all the way across. okay? And on the next row, we're gonna start with the camel stitch or the half double crochet worked through the third loop, because by yarning over and just finishing the stitch off, you create that third loop at the back of the half double crochet. So at the moment, as you can see, I've got the top loops there, and there is the third loop there at the back that we're going to be working through. But because we're working in rows, when we turn our work over, that third loop is going to be facing us. Okay, so we're going to be working through the third loop and pushing the top two loops to the front of our work or to the side away from us. Okay, so that's the beauty of the camel stitch, and it creates a lovely ribbed texture. Okay, so here we go. That's half double crochet all the way across the foundation chain. I'm going to turn over and I'm going to start with 2 chain, okay, and I'm going to yarn over. And now if you look closely, that's your top front loop, back loop, okay, here. And when you look here on the stitch, there is that third loop. So I'm going to go insert the hook under that third loop. And as I said, because we're working in rows, that third loop is facing us. If you were working in rounds, that third loop would be at the back, okay? So again, that's your top loops, and if you look here, that's the third loop there right in front of us. So this is the camel stitch, and all you need to do is work all the way across in this camel stitch, and then just turn again, chain 2, and work through the third loop only at the back. And when you look at the other side of your work, those top loops are being pushed to the front, as you can see, and that's going to create that ribbed texture that we're looking for our pumpkin. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this one here because here is one I prepared earlier. Okay, so we started with 25 stitches across. Okay, now how many rows do we need to do for the rectangle? So this is where I'm going to share a quick formula with you. And no matter how many stitches you start with, it doesn't matter if you want to start with 10 stitches, 30, 40, 50, however big your pumpkins you want it to be. Obviously that width of your rectangle is going to be how tall the pumpkin is, obviously after you sew it up. Okay, so it's this way. So this second pumpkin, it's going to be, you know, once you stuff it and make it into pumpkin, so this is how tall your pumpkin's going to be. Okay, this way. Obviously we need to sew up, cinch the top and the bottom, so it's not going to be as tall as this, but the amount of stitches is going to equal how tall your pumpkin is, okay, this way. So how many rows do we need to do for the rectangle to work and to give you that nice little, you know, squished fat shape to your pumpkin? I'm going to give you a little formula, okay? So we started with 25 stitches across here, no matter how many stitches you started with, because you could be using bulky weight yarn, worsted weight, so just go for however many stitches you want to. What we need to do is measure the width, okay? So this is my width, so it's 11 centimeters here. And to know how long the rectangle needs to be, we're going to time this number by 2.5, okay? So 11 times 2.5 is 27.5 centimeters, okay? So now I'm going to turn the rectangle this way, and I'm just going to measure it this way. And as you can see, is 20 7.5 centimeters there. Okay, so that's your formula. No matter how many stitches you start with, just whatever feels right, however tall you want your pumpkin to be, measure the width, which is 11 centimeters, time it by 2.5, do it on the calculator. 11 times 2.5 is 27.5, which is 27.5 here. Okay, so that's how many rows you need to work up to get the length, 2.5 times length of the width. So you measure the width times 2.5, that will give you the length of your rectangle. Okay, so this is the perfect size of the rectangle to create kind of pumpkin that's going to be in proportion, nice and kind of fat but squished. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to advise you is, we talked about leaving a long starting tail, which I didn't quite do in this case, but we will work with it. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And the other thing I'm going to advise you is to finish your row and leave the tail end on the same side as this starting tail end. Okay, so you want both of your tail ends on the same side here. Okay, on the same at the top edge, on that edge. Yeah, because we're gonna now fold this in half. I'm gonna fold it in half, and I'm gonna use the longer one. Obviously I should have left that one longer, but never mind. So I'm gonna use the longer one, or in your case, because obviously you started with the starting tail end quite long as well, it doesn't matter which one you use in this case, but I'm gonna use this one. And what we're gonna do, so we've got the long rectangle, I'm just gonna fold it in half this way, and all I'm gonna do is sew the last row to my first row. Okay, so I'm just gonna go from the front to the back all the way across like this. You could actually do this with a crochet hook if you wanted to. You could easily just single crochet single crochet the last row to the underside of your foundation chain. So that's perfectly fine as well if you wanted to do that instead. But I just thought I will do it with a needle. I mean, I will show you on this pumpkin where this is where the join is. Okay, so this is my single crochet. I single crochet the last row to the foundation chain. So as you can see, it does create another kind of ridge, but to untrained eye, it doesn't look any different. But, you know, to us crocheters, you can see where the two ends meet. But I'm just gonna do this one with the needle just to see, just to show you the different look. Okay, so as I said, just back to front to attach the last row to the underside of the foundation chain like this. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip it inside out, so I've got the join. So this is where my join is now, you can see. Okay, don't worry about this bit because we'll just pull it through. And now I'm gonna push my needle through this way, and now we're going to cinch one end closed. Okay, so we now need to use the running stitch. So that's just gonna be this is where my yarn is attached. So I'm just gonna go from the back to the front, and again from the front to the back. Okay, and this is the running stitch because this doesn't attach anything. Kind of like it's a movable stitch, that's what I'm trying to say. So from front to back, or what I actually do is go and just do this just to speed the process up. kind of go like this and then just pull the yarn through. Okay, don't worry about cinching it just yet. We just need to go all the way around, going in and out of the fabric, like this. And we're gonna go all the way around, just catching the top edge, just the very last stitch of each row, until we get to where we started from. Okay, so this is the way we're gonna go, and we're back where we started here. Okay, going back to the front. So I've gone all the way around with the running stitch, and what we need to do now is just start pulling, and it's just gonna, by magic, come closed like this. Okay, here we go. And I'm just gonna wiggle it into position a little bit like this and pull it as tight as you can, and then just go through it again. Try to hold it cinched as much as possible, like this. Okay, and we need to just stop it moving. So I'm holding on to the yarn end so it doesn't go anywhere, and I'm gonna go through the loop here so I make a knot. Okay, there we go, like this. Okay, so this is the first cinch on the bottom or top of the pumpkin, and that's another great way about putting your stuffing inside the stocking, as I said at the beginning, because there is always going to be tiny teeny hole. No matter how tight you cinch it, there's always going to be a little tiny hole at the bottom. Okay, so all I gotta do now is just secure this with a few more loops through like this, and what I'm gonna do is actually pop this yarn inside in here and turn it this way, and I'm just gonna sew in the tail end a few times just so it doesn't come apart, because we don't want our pumpkin to come apart and fall apart on a shelf. So here we go, just sew it in a few times. And I'm going to simply take this off, and don't worry about cutting it, just leave it there. It's all going to add to the stuffing. So that's the inside. I'm going to leave that tail end in there, okay? So now what I'm going to do is just stuff it with all the tail ends and all the bits and pieces that I've got. So I'm going to put it inside this nylon stocking. That, as you can see, it's got holes in because it's served its purpose. I have washed it. So I'm just gonna, as you can see, I've got all sorts of bits and pieces of yarn, you know, little tiny balls of yarn that I'm not gonna use for any projects. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start kind of stuffing this little stocking with these bits of yarn that I no longer need, or you know, they're not gonna, this is a little swatch. I don't even know what I was doing here. So I'm just gonna pull that out. If you've got any leftover swatches or any leftover little, you know, bits of yarn and projects that you can use, just start stuffing your stocking here. And just keep going until you obviously have enough, sorry, until you have enough to fill your pumpkin up to a reasonable, you know, you don't have to overstuff it, but to a reasonable amount of stuffing in there, so it actually looks like a pumpkin. So I'm going to carry on unraveling these little bits of balls of yarn, because unraveled, it's obviously going to create a bit more volume. And I will meet you back when I'm ready to pop this filled stocking inside my pumpkin. And the last step we're gonna do is cinch the other end of the pumpkin closed once the stuffing is inside. And then we're gonna just attach the stalk at the top, and we're done. Yeah, so I will see you shortly. Okay, so I've been stuffing my stocking, as you can see. It's all just double check, you know, how much whereabouts we are. So I'm happy with that. It's quite nice and full and plump. So what I'm gonna do, I stuffed all the tail ends and everything in there. So I'm gonna twist the top like this, and then don't cut this top off, because what we can do is just go over, back over it like this. Okay, and again twist it and back over like this. There we go. So we've got a little pumpkin, little stocking pumpkin. Okay, and I'm just gonna pop this inside now, inside the crochet pumpkin we made. And all we gotta do is just cinch the top here, and we are done. One thing I need to do is pop this tail end through to the wrong side here. It's just where I join my join my yarn. Okay, so yeah, there we go. Right. This is gonna be interesting. I'm gonna try with this short tail end, because I didn't think to leave a longer one. So again, the running stitch, in and out, in and out. And yeah, this is not gonna work with this tail end, is it? I'm a bit too ambitious. So what I gotta do is, I'll just leave it in there. I'm gonna get new yarn and get it on my needle. So I've got another piece of yarn, and we're gonna get it on our needle and just attach it. It doesn't matter that you, to be honest, it doesn't matter that you're creating another end. It's not the end of the world, because I'm gonna tuck all the ends inside anyway. So it's not the end of the world if you have to rejoin yarn. If you forget to leave yourself a long enough tail end, all we gotta do is tuck it inside, because it all adds to the stuffing of the pumpkin. This is a very forgiving project when it comes to tail ends and everything. We'll just tuck them inside. Nobody will ever know. Nobody will ever know that our pumpkin is full of yarn ends and unwanted swatches and old nylon stockings. Nobody will ever know. That's our little secret. But it's, you know, reuse, recycle wherever you can. So these little projects, these little pumpkins are great ways of doing that. And I think it's great. So here we are, right at the beginning. And then, yeah, just cinch again as much as you can. Be careful, because if you're working with acrylic or wool or anything like that, if you pull on this too much, it will snap. Don't snap your yarn. I've done that before when I was making hats, actually, and it wasn't fun. So there we go. And here is the cinch. So I'm just gonna secure that a little more so it doesn't start unraveling like this. Okie dokie. And to be honest, the fact that there is a little hole, it comes in really handy, because all I do with the stalks is just poke them in, because my pumpkins actually they're just going to sit on the side. So you can actually glue them sticks in, but I don't think that's necessary. So the last thing we want to do is go through the middle of the pumpkin and try to come out the middle on the other side, which is here, like this. Okay. And what we're going to do is now we need to kind of squash the pumpkin. So I'm going to pull on this tail, on this end, and we're going to try and secure this yarn, but just pull on it like this. So it just kind of squashes the shape of the pumpkin. Okay, that's what we need to do. Again, pull on it and then secure it by going through again. At the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to go through. Now we need to pull on this as much as the yarn allows. Like I said, don't snap your yarn because that's going to be annoying. I'm going to put it and go through the loop to secure this. It's a bit fiddly, as you can see, because you have to pull, and there we go. Oh, we've done it. Okay, so it just squashes it a little bit. Here we go, and there is your pumpkin. Okay. I'm just gonna go back and you could actually go back through again and secure it up the top if you want it squashed a little bit more, or if you don't want to just rely on one strand of yarn holding your pumpkin in shape. So you could come back up to the top again and secure it in the same way again. Go through the fabric like this, leave yourself that loop and pull on that yarn, and then go through the loop to kind of create a knot so the yarn doesn't move. There we go. Okay, so it just squashes it that little bit more. Okay. Oh, it's a little bit tricky, but yeah, that's your squashed shape of a pumpkin. Okay, so I'm gonna just go through the fabric a few more times just to secure this tail end a little bit. Just a few times, in and out, in and out. And what we're gonna do with this one is I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna come out the side of the pumpkin anywhere. Just put it through to the side like this, and grab your scissors. Right, this is how you make it disappear. You pull it quite tight, cut it close, and then let your pumpkin go, and the tail end disappears. There we go. So that's another pumpkin. And like I said, I've got a twig from outside. You can use cinnamon sticks. You can use whatever you wish, really, for the top. I just use a piece of stick. And as you can see, where we cinched it, because it wasn't real tight cinch, it allows you a little hole to poke the top of the pumpkin through, poke the stick through, to create your little pumpkins. So there you go, big sister and little sister, couple of pumpkins made. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and I hope you'll make yourself a couple of these cute little pumpkins. And as I said, they're a great way to use up any scraps of yarn, because you just stuff it inside. Or if you want to use a proper polymer fill, is it polyfill? If you want to use a proper polyfill, it's a great way. But I think the stocking, putting your stuff in inside the stocking, is a great way, because as I said at the beginning, the half double crochet, as you can see, it's quite gappy. but I love the look of it. So placing your stuffing inside a stocking will stop it poking through and stop it yeah, just showing through the fabric. So I hope you enjoyed today's video tutorial, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on social media, and share your pumpkins with me if you do decide to make one with this tutorial. So thank you for watching.